everybody. I'm Matt Valley. Welcome to episode number 150 of the Rock and Roll Research Podcast, where we share the super cool backstories and side gigs of the insights and analytics pros that you trust. Well, hey, I'm very excited about today's episode. I've been thinking about it all week. Today's guest almost needs no introduction, but I'm going to do so anyway. I'm pleased to be chatting today with Katrina Noelle, who is the founder of Know Research. That's capital K, capital N-O-W Research. And she is also the strategic growth director of a really cool company called Hootology, which has some really excellent technology that they've developed in recent years. So cool company, check them out. She's also, you've probably seen her as the co-host of the TRIP podcast, which is the Research Inclusion podcast, which has been going longer than this one, 2019. So total OG. So shout out for that. She's also an Insights 250 member. She's been active in Wire and the Insights Career Network and Insights Association, ESOMAR. You name it, Market Research Council, you name it. She's been involved, so she gives her time, and that's wonderful to see. But I had just learned in a recent conversation, not with Katrina, but with somebody else, that she's actually an accomplished dancer. She's got that in her background. So I'm super excited to talk about all that and more on today's podcast. Welcome to the show, Katrina.
Thank you so much. I can't believe we've been recording longer than you, but not 150 episodes. You win from a numbers game. Congrats.
Yeah, I guess depends on how you count. But 2019 was an early time to start a podcast, so I'm impressed. I'm actually surprised as well that I haven't had you on sooner. So better late than never. I'm super excited to have you, and I really don't even know how you started in Insights. I just know that you've been around and I've seen you for many years now in all sorts of capacities. But how did you first get into this whole space in the first place, Katrina?
Well, I come from the era when people fell into it, but
Yeah.
that wasn't necessarily my story. I tried very hard to jump into it for many years and didn't quite know how or where to jump. So I started it. This comes back to the dancing and theater background. When I quit that professionally, and moved into communications and sort of ended up in marketing because it was a word I knew. I don't know, it sounded like a job. And I was working in entertainment marketing because I thought maybe I'd at least know that pretty well. And
Sure.
I was loaned out to take notes during a focus group. And I said, what is this? Like,
Ah,
what is going on here? And really, the reason that I got into it and tried from that point on to figure out a way into market research and consumer insights is still why I'm in it, because I really love the idea that there is a career about passing the mic and letting people have their say. I just think that's an awesome career to have, to enable people to give their opinions to brands rather than brands telling them what they need and want and what they should do.
yeah. So it was actually a focus group that you were involved in, and then it just clicked. That's really fascinating.
Yeah, my
So
boss at the time just said, "Do you want to take a trip?" And I said, "Yes." Like, I don't, whatever you want me to do, sure. Do I get to travel? Great. And yeah, I ended up in a, dark back room somewhere.
yeah, super cool. So take us a little bit on your journey and fill in some of the blanks for those of you or those of who's listening, those that don't know.
Yeah, so from there, I tried to figure out what this business was, what this industry was, and how to get into it. I stayed for a while trying to get into it through the entertainment lens, and it was during that time period where there was mergers and acquisitions crazily. I mean, much like today, in fact, in the entertainment world, and I couldn't quite get my footing internally. So I saved up. I turned in my notice and I took myself to Burke and I got trained. And then I just tried to figure out who would hire me to do, started out moderating and facilitating, and then realized about 5 or 6 years later, I actually really love this and I think I'm pretty good at it and I need some more people around me. So sort of from that point on, I started building my first agency, No Research, to be able to be more involved in the design and the consultation and the strategy work, not just the facilitation of the research.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Cool. Cool. And I mentioned Hootology. I know that you've
Yeah.
No Research did well. You also co-founded Scoot Insights, which is kind of rolled in now. But tell me about the Hootology experience and what you're doing there as well.
Yeah. So to go back one step, Janet Standen and my co-founder and I at Scoot started Scoot about 10 years ago to use qualitative skills in a facilitation capacity. So that's kind of why it rolled up nicely together because it's still
Right.
um, in-person, synchronous conversations, whether we're facilitating customers or in fact internal teams, which is the Scoot Sprint methodology. So I had been creating things and pivoting and being like the founder of the moment for a long time. And a couple years ago, we hit this latest batch of new, shiny, amazing tools that's going to make our industry even better. And I said, I think I may not be the technical genius founder for this particular moment. So I looked around to figure out what others were doing in the space that were using the capabilities of generative AI to push human research forward, is how I will put it, rather than replace human research. And I met the founder of Hootology, Stephanie Francis, at a Wire Exec Summit and
Mhm.
sort of fangirled her from the sidelines a little while she was putting together the Hooks platform. And conversations continued last year. And I joined the team in January because I really think this is the best foot forward I have seen in the space and a very necessary foot forward.
Yeah, yeah, cool. And I know that Hootology was really kind of formed out of some disappointment with like what full service research was looking like once upon a time. But it's always kind of had new ideas and innovation at the forefront. And so there's this Hooks platform, right? That's really cool. That's more or less kind of like an AI moderated experience. Is that right?
Well, it's the ability to stay grounded in qualitative, to stay grounded in the words of people, but be
Yeah.
able to quantify that information. So I think a lot of people are talking about like AI moderation at qual at scale. That's a little different than what we're doing at Hootology. The Hooks platform allows you to collect both qualitative and quantitative information and
Yeah.
put numbers around it so that it's validated and accurate, so that you can really talk about the data both qualitatively and quantitatively in the same breath. And all of the information comes from the participant. So all the themes, all the answer options, everything is generated by the participant pool. And then the minute Gen AI thinks of something and suggests something, it's also validated and checked by those participants. So nothing runs amok. Nothing comes up with its own answers without being checked by the humans that sent it on that journey. So yeah, I think it's really exciting. I think it's a really good way to kind of not only make research more efficient, like from a speed perspective, because we're able to crunch that down a lot, but really from a can we use tools best, right? I think there's so much emphasis right now on shiny stuff that can do it for us, but what I really love about what we in the team have built is that it's helping us, right? It's assisting us just doing things better and faster.
Yeah, totally. I love it. And I love that sort of system of checks and balances within the research process, right? Which
Yeah.
takes no additional steps. It's responded, validated. It's a very cool, very clever application. So cool stuff. All right. So all of that was following a career. I think you said professional as a professional dancer. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean that so I do have to say people ask me what my hobby is and I didn't fess up to this until maybe a couple years ago. I was like, "Oh, I'm just a workaholic. I don't have a hobby." Um but yeah, so my original plan, I went to college for musical theater and that was the plan, that was the dream, that was the everything. Katrina did not have a plan B. So when I decided to kind of be a normal person with a normal job, I had to figure out what to do. But yes, that's sort of my origin story.
Well, let's get into some of the detail of that. So obviously that means you're a theater kid growing up, right? And so Tell us about that. Give us a little bit of the flavor there.
Yeah, so very strident theater kid. Like I was definitely uncool and proud. If anyone has seen the movie Theater Camp, it is real. That is a real film that happened to lots of us. Um, and yeah, so my parents, I grew up with my parents owning a recording studio that was mostly spoken word, because they were both voiceover talents. But they did a lot of production for albums for local artists as well. So I was
Yeah.
constantly around that whole milieu. And I remember all of my theater friends were really mad at me when I quit because I had the only supportive parents. Like no one else's parents were into this happening for their kids, and mine were like severely disappointed that I wanted to go into business.
That is, you know what, that is so funny. And I'm really jealous. Like you've got parents that have this recording studio. You know, I grew up playing in a band with my brother, and my parents were so disinterested in music. Fortunately, they were supportive that we were doing music, right? And so they dealt with us practicing in the basement, but they just were not music people so much. I mean, my mom a little bit, but my dad, you know, not at all. But you've got all of this around you, right? And so you're like, you double down in college and said, I'm going for it. So what did a career look like for you at the time? Like what were you gunning for?
Well, everybody at that point is gunning for Broadway. And I think what I realized through a few very kind and smart teachers, um, I just wasn't quite at the level. I was looking at a career in the chorus, is kind of what they said. And I will
Yeah.
say, I got this feedback that I was too expressive for the chorus. So I was like, as expressive as a lead would be, like, I couldn't keep it together to like, I could never be a rockette, like stone face, right? Like I was always emoting. So, yeah. So basically, I made a decision, and I've told this story. I wonder if I told this on Jamin's show, maybe, but it's a few years ago. So I decided, okay, fine, I'm going to do a job that still gets me communicating and in front of people and listening to stories and using empathy and like all those things that you do in theater, right? Uh, but I'll work when other people work, and I won't be hired based on a headshot. And then when I
Yeah.
started moderating, I was working at night based on my headshot, and I was like, what have I done? It's the same thing.
Oh, that's hilarious. But I think you've already answered the question I was going to ask, which is, what did you learn, in your initial career, theater, all that sort of thing that you've applied to your work here, and it makes a lot of sense, right? So you're in front of people, and but can you talk a little bit more about that, like maybe what that background prepared you for?
Yeah, I think it's a couple of things. It is definitely it is being people or human centric and telling stories. Like that is, for a while there was this rumor that people that got into research were in um, psychology, theater, or law, because all of those helped you see other people's stories and tell stories from other people's perspectives. So there is that
Right.
component of it. But
Yeah.
also there is just something about, and kind of the, as I've moved into the space as a thought leader and a presenter and a facilitator, I just don't have any concern about getting up in front of any size and shape of group and talking about anything. And didn't quite realize that that was a superpower, just sort of thought that was natural. And there is, a lot of code shifting and a lot of character playing, being able to talk to participants, talk to clients, talk to C-suite, right? You kind of have to keep your audience shifting and present information in a compelling way. And I think that's really what that skill set has turned into in my career.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Just a little fun fact I might interject here. You might be surprised to learn I did have my own dancing experience. So when the Gap ad came out with Jump, Jive, and Wail and swing dancing became a huge craze, I was already involved in that kind of subculture, right? So that hit the mainstream, and I was invited with some other friends to be the halftime show of an NFL playoff game in my hometown in Minneapolis. So I jumped, I jived, and I wailed during halftime, I think in 1998, I want to say. Anyway, so
Hey,
kind of fun.
no, you shouldn't have told me that because the next time we're at a conference together and there's music playing, I think I might be
I'm
asked to
in.
be spun around. Are you up for that?
I'm in. Up for it. I'm
Okay,
always
it's a
so.
deal.
Anytime I hear that rockabilly beat, let's do it. I'm ready for
Deal.
it.
Deal, Matt.
Cool. Excellent. All right. So it's been a super interesting time to be part of this industry. You've seen a lot of changes. Perhaps the speed of change has increased extremely rapidly. Now it's like every week, almost every day, right? The new news of the day is consequential and something to think through. I'm curious to know from your breadth of experience as you look out into the future, what are you seeing?
I mean, I think there's two things when you talk about the present and the future that are kind of top of mind for me. So the first is just where we are as a world and a globe right now, right? We are in a number of different crises. I will just say it that way.
Yeah.
And we have been there before, right? We have been through the pandemic. Those of us who had businesses and got them through '08 was a whole other kettle of fish. So I think if you just think about kind of economic uncertainty and brands being in a really hard place right now in terms of spend, how to make business decisions in this environment. There's layoffs, there's budget cuts, all of that is kind of going on. And so I think um, that set of factors is bringing us back to kind of an '08 scrappiness, right? Like, what can we do? What tools can we use? How can we design things so that people keep listening to their customers, understanding the constraints that we're at the moment. So I kind of see that as a pattern that we're encountering right now and will
Yeah.
continue to encounter, right? There's no vaccine for this current situation. So we're just trying to get through it.
Trying to get through
Um,
exactly.
but and then the second one is clearly like the AI elephant, right, in the room, and this idea of this really speed of technical progress. And this is a rhythm we've seen before. This is big data all over again. This is qualitative bulletin board platform explosion. This is interactive data repositories. We've had these kind of waves of innovation. This is just a really big wave moving really fast. So I think it's kind of
Yeah.
important both to remember back to when we had tech advances hit the industry, but also realize that while they form a little bit of a template, we are in a new world. Like, I don't know how you feel about that, right? Do you think about it being more comparative to past or something totally new and different?
You know what? It's a very interesting question. And I found that it changes week to week. Like last week, I was feeling like exactly how you described it. It's like this is a wave. It's just a really big wave, but we've seen how this plays out. The technology becomes, uh, part of what all of us do. It becomes easy to use, so we all adopt it in one form or another, and life moves on, right? But there are some elements of this that just feel different. Especially if you're watching LinkedIn. I don't know if you've seen what Kevin Carty's been posting, but it's been really thought provoking over the last week.
Yes.
And it's put me in a spot where, yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I'd love to say this is how it is and this is how I feel, but it just keeps changing.
I've just been saying my crystal ball is a little fuzzy right now.
Yeah.
But like I can kind of, but I think we are in for and experiencing a very large shift, and it is up to us to figure out how to shift with it and not worry
Yeah.
about if it's happening, but how we are going to not only react to it, but be a part of it, right? Have some agency around it and determine how we are going to ensure that people are still heard and we're still providing mechanisms for opinions, wants, needs of customers of being heard by the brands that serve them. Like, that is still essential. So the how could change considerably, but we've got to keep doing that.
Yeah, totally. Now, there was something I read last week I thought was really interesting, in terms of your first point, right, on what brands are dealing with, the situation that they're dealing with. And a lot of what we heard last year with brands was they can't take price anymore, right? And so they need to innovate. It's an imperative, and they have to invest behind that. And I think we're seeing a lot of that at play right now. There was General Mills released their quarterly results and had some CEO had some comments about that. Their revenue is down quite a bit, maybe over 7%, I want to say year over year. But said, hey, this is what we knew we would be in this place. 2/3 of this is due to factors that we expected. And it's basically we have to invest in innovation. So we're going to take the short-term hit. And I think a lot of companies are doing that because it is imperative. And so that's a good thing for our industry.
Yeah, and I think it's sad to say, but it just takes a couple brands not listening and getting it wrong. It's almost more powerful, right, than the proof case and the case studies of people doing it right. It's like when an ad misses badly, maybe you
Yeah.
should have tested it with some people. Maybe you should have talked to some people to inform the campaign direction, right? So I think a product flops. Did you ask people if that's what they wanted or needed, or if it was easy to use?
Yeah. Yep.
So yes, so I think I still fundamentally believe that brands who listen, and not only listen, but take action on what they hear, get ahead. Like that is the winning formula. So, sometimes it just takes a little while for that to play out. There's a lot of corner cutting and a lot of, oops, didn't check with our customers until something happens to make them realize, nope, that's essential. We need to do that.
Yeah. Here, here. All right, Katrina. So this is a podcast, right? You've got a podcast. It's all media. At the end of the day, it's all media. And I know you're an extremely busy person. Very interested to know, this can be personally or professionally. It's a big, broad question, right? So of the media that you're consuming for insight, inspiration, enjoyment, what is it? What do you care about? What do you like?
I mean, I'm not just saying this because I'm on a podcast, but really, I've been a podcast junkie since it was possible to be one. I adore content, and I adore stories, and I adore learning things. And so the fact that I can choose something that's anywhere from 20 minutes to an hour long and learn something new and have an aha that wasn't part of a study and wasn't part of my own set of experiences is really like my happy place. I actually have to remind myself to have some time without listening to things because I need some like air and sky time every once in a while. But I listen to a lot of podcasts that are not quite as spot on like in our industry. I tend to listen to a lot of economics podcasts, which sounds as dry as boring as you can get, but I'm telling you, there's some fun ones out there like Planet Money and Freakonomics and that kind of milieu, right? And I also, listen to sociology or history podcasts like The Rest is History and Articles of Interest and things like that, just to kind of take me out of my world and learn about somebody else's for a while.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Me too. Me too. Actually, I did not listen to a lot of podcasts until I think the last couple of years. So it's
Okay.
relative. I had a
What
podcast.
turned the tide? How did they get you? I'm
Um,
sorry, you
I
can't help me. You can't stop me from interviewing you back. I apologize. This is just in
no,
the
no,
blood.
absolutely. It's in your DNA, right? So it's all good. Um, I think what it was is I don't watch much linear TV at all, as most people don't. I actually don't stream a lot either, because you need to be sitting, and that's what you're doing, right? And that's usually not the case for me. So for me, it just fits in really well with whatever I'm doing, whether I'm driving or whether I'm doing something, cleaning, moving around, whatever. It really works. So yeah, I agree. I agree. Cool.
Mhm, mhm.
Cool. Excellent. All right. So we've gotten this far, Katrina. We really haven't talked music, except as it relates to dancing slightly, but it's the Rock and Roll Research Podcast, and this is the question that I care most about, right? So, and I have no idea what your answer is. I'm super curious. You're stranded on a desert island, Katrina. You have 3 albums that you're choosing to keep you company for the rest of your days. What are they?
first of all, thank you for telling me ahead of time, because you would have gotten a very blank face to narrow it down to three. And I'm a very literal person. I'm like, okay, how much longer am I living? What could I stand listening to that long? It's really, um, but so I have to have things with me on the island that I can dance to, right? So if we go back to music choices, it's actually why I listen to podcasts more than music, because I can't really sit still if I'm listening to music. So yeah. So my list starts with the Gershwin Rhapsody in Blue album, which has the American in Paris song on it. Just for some, like, it's gotta have, I don't know what I would do without Gershwin for more than a week. So, gotta get that in there. And
Yeah.
and then I Googled to find the most complete Peggy Lee collection. And apparently it's called
Yes.
Ultimate Peggy Lee. And I don't even know how many discs it has, but it should should keep me singing "Leaning Up a Coconut Tree" for a little while.
I love it. Peggy is amazing. That's a very cool choice.
And that my mother may kill me for that, because she recorded a Peggy Lee album because she is also a singer. But sorry, Mom, I have to take the original to the desert island. Sorry.
Maybe we'll give you both. Just
Thank you. Little extra bonus pack. If it's self-produced, I should be able to take it anyway. And then the third one is the Moulin Rouge soundtrack. The movie, not the Broadway cast. Sorry, Broadway, but there is something special about that. We're recording this in March of 2026, and if anyone saw the last presentation of the Oscars when Ewan and Nicole came out and did like a little bit of the song together, it was like the best moment of the Oscars for me.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Really cool choices. I'm a little bit surprised you didn't say Slayer. It's okay. It's
If I
okay.
had a fourth, Matt, if I had a fourth.
It's all right. It's all right, Katrina. So I really have enjoyed this chat, including we just touched the surface of all of this stuff that's going on right now in the industry. And so this is definitely a thread that I want to continue, whether it's on LinkedIn, whether I see you at a conference again very, very soon, whatever the case. And of course, I owe you a dance, or you owe me a dance, either way, because I would have done the same, knowing that you're a dancer. If the music is right, it's like, I need a dance partner for this. That's how it
Well,
goes.
it takes two to tango, so we would both have to give each other a dance. So that works out, Matt. It can be a tie. That's fine.
We're covered. Excellent. Thanks so much, Katrina. I know I will be talking to you or seeing you soon. Let's talk soon. Rock and roll.